Hey there, I'm Rocky Logue. This is Classroom Conversations. On today's conversation, we have MaryEllen Mosley from Mesa Middle School in Napomo, California. She's an 8th grade science teacher, and she's going to give us some good insight on how to use video in your slides and how to have an at-home activity on paper also work seamlessly with that online activity. Let's jump right in and take a look. All right, welcome to Classroom Conversations. I'm Rocky Logue. I have MaryEllen Mosley here, science teacher at Mesa Middle School. She's going to introduce herself a little bit more and jump right into her lesson.
Hi, everybody. So my name is MaryEllen Mosley. A lot of people call me Mo, so that's usually how you'll hear me be referenced. And welcome to my lesson here. It is all about the 5 fingers of evolution. And so I normally teach this during our History of Life on Earth unit.
All right. Yeah, just go ahead and get into it. We'll check it out.
Do you want me to start with how I would normally do this in a traditional setting?
Sure. If you want to tie it in the traditional setting, because I know this is a lesson that you've done, and then maybe how it looked before, and then what you added on to for now.
Sure. Okay. So here we go. My 5 fingers of evolution. Shout out to Franny Artizzoni over at Judkins, because I know that she introduced me to this TED Talk and to this video. And it's one that I absolutely love. It's a really great introduction to evolution without being overwhelming. And the way that the TED Talk explains it is just such a great overview. And so I love it. Normally in class, I would have this up on the big screen, and then we would be pausing to do the infographic that you are going to see in these videos. And so then I thought to myself, how am I going to scaffold this? How am I going to break this up? How am I going to make this manageable for a student in this new setting? I knew I didn't want to just get rid of it. And so this is kind of what we came up with. On all of our, I'm going to say our, because my teaching partner, Kylie Faree, her and we develop all of these lessons together. And so you can see her Bitmoji and mine. But at the beginning of all of our lessons, we always have an instructional video. And so this would be perfect for the kid who is absent, who the kid misses the meet. This video explains everything for them. And so kind of what I love about this is next year, when hopefully we're back in the traditional setting, I can pull this lesson and give it to a kid with maybe some slight modifications who's absent, and they're going to get the whole lesson that normally they'd miss out on. So I did lots of fancy Google stuff. Once this is in present mode, the video plays for only the short snippet that the student would need. Again, so it doesn't overwhelm them. And so it starts and stops, and you can see I have a picture of the infographic that I want them to copy. And so everything on this first picture of the infographic was in that section of the video. So they click through. I also embed audio on all of my slides. And so this audio is me further explaining what they saw in the video. And so shrinking populations, that might be a hard concept for a student to understand. They would watch the video first. Shrinking populations. Let's say a pandemic. All right. And so then it's a little bit more of my personal touch, explaining to them the infographic. And so as you can see, there's lots of slides, and they continue to build, and they continue to add to their 5 fingers. Until
right, so hold on. I'm gonna interrupt you here for a second. If you go back to the other slides, I just had a question about how you assign it, because I haven't even thought of doing it this way, and it's really cool how you obviously, this isn't a slideshow where you'd have them make a copy and they could just go through it on their own. Do you assign it? Do you publish it and give them the publish link so they can't go through? I mean, they could go from slide to slide, but but the great thing on this is each slide only plays at 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever. So do you give them the publish link or just?
Normally, so they're actually going to get this whole thing. And yes, I 100% know that I have my students that are going to skip to this slide, and they're going to copy this, and they're going to throw their notes up next to me. And of course, that breaks my heart, especially after I've chopped it up for them. And more importantly, because I think there's so much good learning. That being said, that's not the hill I'm going to die on. And so, no, they could go through here and they could just copy each part without watching the video. And I just felt like that was something I was going to live with, because a lot of the times when I give the students a assignment like this, that they're allowed to be a little bit creative, where they get to draw pictures and be a little bit silly, I usually have pretty high engagement and pretty high turn in on this. I would definitely modify this for students with an IEP, and that would probably be my next step. But now I give them this whole thing, because you'll see as we get to these last slides, this is really my check for understanding if they got the information or not.
Yeah, I found that the funny thing is I found that actually this year too. I have a slideshow. It's a choose your adventure type slideshow, but I give it to them in the published form, so they have to click through it, even though they could just go from slide to slide. And I was wondering how it would work out. Usually, you've probably had kids do this. Usually on campus, there's a slide where it tells them they're a surf, and it gives them orders to go around campus and clean things up and see a teacher. And then, but I changed it to they had to do it at home. And again, they're seventh graders. We're talking about seventh and eighth graders here. I changed it to they had to go vacuum for their parents or do whatever. And I found that some of the kids were actually did that. I thought a lot of them would be like, whatever, I'm going to skip it. But a lot of them actually ended up doing all that, which was a pleasant surprise that they are actually, when you make it engaging and give them some creativity and make things a little bit different, they want to do the stuff. So
100%. I'm a big believer in giving students the benefit of the doubt. And I'm a big believer in students being able to read how genuine you are. And I try to be just that to them. I try to be very transparent and say, like, hey, you could totally skip to this slide and copy it, but you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not doing me a disservice. I mean, so I really try and put that back in their court as much as possible. And then, as you can see, so they take a picture here. This is actually a TikTok reference of duetting. And what's so funny is I checked with my 14-year-old, and the first time I had this flip-flopped. And I was like, does this make sense? Am I using the TikTok right? And she was like, well, no, you actually need to flip the images. So if you have kids at home, they are the best resource possible for checking your work. So yeah, they take a picture of their notes and they embed it. We did not allow this assignment to be turned in without this picture being posted. So if a kid tried to turn this in and their picture was missing, I already had a canned response that was like, oops, you need to go fill out your infographic. So this is the hard work. And then we went through here and we gave them a couple more sort of high interest videos, but it was these slides that we were really checking, because it was on these slides that we could really check to see if they understood the concept or not. And so this first one is all about shrinking populations and gene flow, which was 2 of the 5 fingers, but it's in one video. And so this is a drag and drop where they had to watch the video, figure out which one goes with which one, drag and drop over. As far as checking and grading, that check for understanding on my part, this was such a fast, quick check. They either got this or didn't, and then I'd be like, okay, moving on. The second one is about dogs and non-random mating. So we're looking at another finger. And we're really working on claim evidence reasoning. So we try and really pepper it in, make it something fun and interesting that they are responding to. And so just constantly working on that skill. And so here's one, it's talking about the breeding of dogs and how humans have created all of the breeds of dogs through non-random mating. And so again, I'm checking for a couple things here. I'm checking, do they understand non-random mating, and can they understand how evolution is occurring? Do they also understand claim evidence reasoning? Can they pick evidence from a video and then explain it with the concepts?
I like, there's a couple things, and back, you said like being authentic with the kids. I think that's really good. I don't grade a lot of my class. I don't just give points. I get that a lot with my kids. Like, well, how many points is this worth? I'm like, it's not just worth points. This is, you're gaining knowledge, and I'm not going to just give you points for doing this, but where you're going to show it off. And this is kind of what you're doing. Where you're going to show it off is when you get that assessment, when you have to write your essay, when you have to do your performance assessment, when you get to your exam. That's when you're going to earn your grade, so to speak. And, and I feel that works a lot. I've had teachers like, oh, no. And I'm like, no, I don't grade a lot. And I don't just give away points. I assess things, like you're doing, these quick assessments here that you're doing of, did they actually, you can tell the difference for a kid that went to the last slide and just copied what you did, as opposed to somebody who took their time with these quick assessments. And then those kids start realizing that, oh, this work, there is a payoff for this work. If I just watched the video the first time and did the infographic, all the rest of the stuff maybe isn't going to come right away, but it's going to be more manageable for them to accomplish. And I like how you're adding that assessment in there, and not just like, hey, you're doing this just for points, just to, check off a box. You're doing this to learn it. And then you're going to prove to me that you learned the content that I gave you.
100%. And that's exactly it. Is if they cut corners at the beginning of this, it's just going to make the end harder, and they're not going to be able to do and answer these questions correctly. And so it is that natural consequence. And I think the natural consequences in middle school is so important. This is the time for them to make mistakes. This is the time for them to fail. This is the time for them to figure out that, just like you said, the learning is part of the process, and it doesn't always have to be for a grade. It should be for that process and that end goal that we're all working on. I love it. Okay, so last one, they're talking about mutations. The only finger we don't test them on this lesson is natural selection, and that's because then we're going to move on and do natural selection as sort of its own big lesson. So we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here. Again, trying to always make our slides fun and engaging, but still have a little bit of bite to them. So this video in particular is really high-level science. And they talk about DNA mutations and the production of venom and some really cool stuff. But this was probably the hardest question to answer. And this is when I could really see who my elite level kids were, my skilled, and my beginners, which is how we label the 3 in our class. And so this is kind of one of those that if a kid didn't quite explain this, I was okay with that, because I was asking a lot on this one. And the kids that really just gave me a complete paragraph and showed me how much learning occurred, that made my heart sing. So this was sort of one of those higher level slides. We have a quick misconception slide just to really make sure that they understood what we talked about today. And then these are always fun. So at the end of all of our lessons, there's always bonus learning. And so bonus learning is just that. We don't grade it. There's no questions really attached. But a lot of times I have students come back to me and want to talk about the bonus learning videos. And so we have one about left-handedness. So that's something you inherit from your parents. And then a little bit more about mutations. So you can see we try and keep slides to about 10 to 15 max, but this is a pretty standard lesson that I would give in distance learning.
Yeah, I like that. It's really cool. And again, this is something, and I know you said that you just modified and tweaked some stuff for distance learning. This is stuff you use in the classroom. And again, it works in so many different ways. You can do teacher-led and just use this as a slideshow that you want to do direct instruction over, or you can use it for station rotation and say, hey, group 1, you're going to do slides 1 through 5. Group 2, you're going to do, I guess this has a progression, so you might not be able to do it that way, but maybe they're doing.
You totally could. You could.
I guess you could
assign each kid a finger. Well, the middle finger is always the one you want to, but you could assign groups of kids the fingers. They each come here, they watch their individual slide, and then they come and they teach the rest of the class. This is a great sub day where you can just throw it up with a sub in there. And like I said, this is also a great, if a kid is absent. I love doing this one in person. It's actually one of my favorites. It takes forever because I am walking around and going, oh, Rocky, see, you haven't gotten started yet. So I'm going to wait. All of us are going to wait till you get all caught up. But the kids who kind of fight this doodle infographic at first really embrace it. And I start seeing all these different really weird hands and they have fun with it. So it's one I love giving in person, but one I was really happy that I could figure out how to modify because I just love the learning that happens in this lesson.
Yeah, it's a nice, I call these kind of hybrids because you can do anything with them, right? You can do it, you can, like I said, lecture over, or it can be completely independent. It's also kind of a nice, because I know you follow this practice like I follow this practice. I don't give a lot of homework, really. It's the kids doing work at home. Yeah, the kids doing work at home, it's because they were absent or they didn't get it done in class. But this is a way that parents can take a look at what's happening in class. Like they can jump on Google Classroom and see what that lesson is, and they can participate, and the kids can go home and instead of having to do homework, say, hey, this is a great lesson. Do you want to check it out? And a lot of good, and these slides, and I want to say this the right way because it took you a lot of time and these slides look really awesome. But
it didn't take me that long. They're not that difficult.
But that's what I'm saying. Once you get in the swing of things, you're adding videos and then you duplicate the slide and then you change things a little bit. And once you learn how to do some of this stuff where it might have taken you 2 or 3 hours the first time, or maybe a half day to figure it out, it turns into, maybe an hour or two to make it. And then you can just tweak it from now on. If you find a better video, you take that video out and you put a better one in. If you find a better picture, or if you want to add to it, it's always going to be there. So
yeah.
Well, that was a great lesson, and I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks, Rocca.
Can't wait till we can get back to working together in the same place with our kids. We do work at the same school.
Actually hired at Mesa the same year. Neither one of us were new year teachers, but first year teachers, but we were hired the same year. And we're both awesome. High five across the computer, dog.
High five. Whoops, I missed. It was a miss. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. And you're always awesome, always spreading just good ideas and working hard. So thanks for all you do.
All right. Thanks.
Peace out.